So now that we know how to factor, we want to actually use it to solve equations. Now, what we're going to take advantage of is what's called a zero product property, which means if you have a statement of equality, like A times B is equal to 0, then what would that tell you about either A or B? Well, the only way you get a product of 0 is if either A or B were equal to 0. So we either get A equal to 0 or B equal to 0. Or I guess we could also say or both. Both of them are equal to 0. And that's how we'd get a product of 0. Okay, so this is what we call the zero product property, or sometimes you'll see it stated as a zero product principle. But okay, file this away. We're going to use it in just a second. All right, so now let's get an equation here. So this is a quadratic equation, not an expression, because it's x squared minus x minus 20 equals zeros. Now, equals zeros, that's important. So we're asking what values of x make this whole side equal to 0? Okay, to solve this, surprise, surprise, we're going to use the process of factoring. So we're going to look for factors of negative 20 that sum to negative 1. And so I start listing out the pairs. There's 1 and 20. There's 2 and 10. 3 doesn't go in, but 4 goes in 5 times. Oh, hold on a second. Now, one of these has to be negative. Either we have a negative 4 plus 5, or we have a positive 4 and a minus 5, because to get a negative product, I need a negative times a positive, or a positive times a negative. Now, which of these combinations gives me a sum of negative 1? Well, in this case, it is this last pair right here, this 4 minus 5, because 4 minus 5 is minus 1. Okay, factoring as usual. So I go to my x squared, and then I break my b up into these two values. So I'll say plus 4x minus 5x minus 20 equals 0. Let's not forget the equals 0. All right, so now I have my two pairs. There's a pair right here and a pair right there. And I'm going to factor those groups. So what does x squared and x have in common? Excuse me, x squared and 4x have in common. They both have an x in common. So x times x plus 4. Okay, now let's look at my next pair. What does negative 5x and minus 20 have in common? Well, in this case, they both have a 5. You can pull out 5. And again, since my number out front is negative, I'm also going to pull out a negative. So this is negative 5. All right, so we're thinking to ourselves, negative 5x divided by negative 5 equals what? And the answer is a positive 1x. And then we have a minus 20 divided by negative 5. And that's going to be a positive 4. So I get a positive 4. All right. And I know I'm on the right track. When the x plus 4 and x plus 4 is present in both terms, I know I'm on the right track. So I write my two pairs, and I can already see them both. There's the x plus 4, which both terms have in common, and then you can see the leftovers right there. X minus 5 equals 0. Okay, now pause for a second. So what we have is we have a factor times another factor, and their product is 0. So this is the very case that the zero product property is talking about, which means either the first factor is equal to 0, or the second factor is equal to 0, or they're both equal to 0. Now, these are conditional statements. This is x plus 4 equals 0. Well, is x plus 4 itself 0? Well, that depends. It depends on x. So what I'm going to say is, okay, when? When is x plus 4 equal to 0? That's the question. And we can answer it by saying subtract 4 from both sides when x is equal to negative 4. Okay, so that's one part, one factor. Well, how about this one right here? When? When does x minus 5 equal 0? Question. Answer, when x is equal to 5. So this right here is what I'm saying is the solution to the problem. So if I wanted to check it, I would plug -4 and 5 in for x in both these statements in this equation, and I should get 0. So let's go ahead and check it. Let me erase this over here. So it's just our scratch work, so it can go away now. All right. Okay, since there's 2 answers, there's 2 checks. So we'll say check 1. Let's start with the -4. So if I had -4 quantity squared minus a -4 subtract 20, what would that be equal to? And I'm hoping that's going to be 0. So let's see, -4 quantity squared is 16, and then -4 is a +4, subtract 20, and then 16 plus 4 is 20, subtract 20, which, oh, great, by the way, is 0. So good. So x plus minus 4, that must be a solution because it checks out. Okay, so that's 1, but we need to check 2 of them. So check number 2. Now, what if x were equal to 5? Well, it'd be 5 squared minus 5, +5, subtract 20, and the question is, what is that equal to? And I'm hoping it's going to be equal to 0. So 5 squared, what is that? That is 25. That's -5 minus 20. All right, so that gives me 25. Oh, excuse me, 25 minus 5 is 20. Subtract 20, which again gives me 0. Very good. All right, so I've checked these 2 answers, and indeed, both x minus 4 and x plus 5, when plugged into the original equation, makes a true statement. So those must be my answer.